Why are vampire hunters sniffing around here? I need to find out what they're after.
Sir, no civilians allowed. Stupid fucking beast!
This woman's body has multiple lacerations. They're deep, too. Whoever did this was driven by rage. He had his tongue removed and his eyes gouged out. He was a victim of brutal torture. This one's neck is broken. He was young. Probably the son.
You killed your family.
They mocked my talent! Ah!
I've never seen such a radical mutation. Could it be a new stage in the disease's evolution? So, this girl took lessons at the famous Doris Fletcher acting school. Good evening, sir. May I have your attention, please?
Come on, Johnny. Don't you recognize your oldest friend?
Clarence. Clarence Crossley. How are you? My God. So you survived the war too. So sorry I didn't recognize you at first.
I almost didn't recognize you either. War does that to men, I heard. In my case, it was true, for I witnessed the horror that lies underneath.
When did you escape the war and return to London?
You know what's funny? I almost never think about the war. Not anymore. I'm involved in another kind of battle now.
I know what you mean. I haven't had much time to think about the war either since my return.
Of course. With the epidemic, I bet you've been busy as well. Forgive me, Johnny, I didn't want to sound selfish.
What is this new battle?
I saw terrible things during the war. Horrors I thought I'd forget. They're here too. They're everywhere. Vampires.
Clarence, why have you distributed leaflets about vampires all across the West End?
I have to warn everybody about them. They've killed thousands of people already, unnoticed thanks to the epidemic. We are all in danger here.
Vampires in London? Come on, Clarence. Who's going to believe that?
I'm not mad, Jonathan. You have to believe me. I know they are real. They're all around us, even as we speak.
Clarence, you've always been a reliable and a good friend to me. If you say you saw a vampire, then I believe you.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you for your trust. You don't know what that means to me.
It's all right. But if you want my help, you have to explain exactly what happened.
The first time it was in Rouen. I saw an officer drink the blood of a soldier. I saw its teeth, saw it bite. It was a vampire, Johnny, and they're here too.
Tell me what you have discovered about vampires, Clarence.
They've always been here. And if you search for long enough, you realize others know about these devils too. I'm not alone.
Have you shared your research with anybody else?
No. But I've published my leaflets all across the city, hoping that someday someone will realize I'm printing the truth.
What do you mean you're not alone? Who have you met?
The Guard of Prewin. The Brotherhood of St. Paul's Stole, Ichabod Throgmorton. Those names always pop up when you dig deep enough.
Have you spoken with any of them?
No. With the quarantine, it's almost impossible to leave the West End. But as a doctor, maybe you could, Johnny.
Are you asking me to help you prove the existence of vampires, Clarence?
Yes, Johnny. Please, gather all the information you can find about vampires and bring it to me. You're the only friend I have left. I need you.
Clarence, tell me about the vampire you saw in France.
I was enjoying my leave in Rouen. I left the bar, took a shortcut back to the barracks. I saw it in a back alley. An officer in a stained uniform, biting into a soldier's neck.
But you were drunk, weren't you? Are you sure these two men were not just kissing?
Please don't insult me, Johnny. I hid, and I saw him leave. Then I saw the body, drained of all blood. I've seen the same marks here in London since I've returned.
Did you ever see that officer again?
No. He wore the uniform of the Royal Warwickshire Regiment. I did some research, but found no trace of him. He probably stole it from a previous victim.
How is your wife, Venus?
We've spent so much time away from each other. And so many things have happened.
But you're alive. You returned in one piece and you have a family. How many soldiers can say the same?
Believe me, it's not quite that simple. Unlike you, I'm not the man I used to be.
Is everything all right at home? Surely Venus was relieved to see you return from France in one piece.
Have you forgot what people are like in this part of town, Johnny? Venus fears for our family reputation. Now her husband has become the village idiot.
I'm investigating the source of the epidemic in this district. Can you help me?
Infection is everywhere these days. But if you ever go to the park near that swanky house belonging to the Mullaneys...
Yes? What about the Mullaneys? What about their house?
Not enough noise for a big family with children. Not enough movement. Closed doors. What is going on in there? I wonder.
You need some rest, Clarence. You should try to sleep.
Only the first step.
Good evening, Miss Ashbury.
And good evening to you, Dr. Reed.
I have found out what happened to your friend, Emily.
I can handle the truth. There's no need to hide the bloody details.
Your friend was planning to become a vampire. She thought she'd met an honest one and made a deal with him. Unfortunately, Emily did not survive the process.
My mother told me many times about the risks of being turned. I often suspected she exaggerated the danger to avoid me being tempted.
No, the risk is real. Have you any idea what a body has to endure to become an organism entirely consumed by its need to process and recombine blood?
I should never have talked to Emily about vampires. I never thought she'd actually try it without me. Thank you, sir. Here, take this for your discretion.
I'm investigating the source of the epidemic in this district. Have you noticed anything unusual recently?
A few days ago, I spotted a strange house while campaigning for women's suffrage. Awful smell. No answer when I knocked.
Where is it?
It's the Mullaneys, a nice family who live in a big house near the park in the eastern part of this neighborhood.
Goodbye, Charlotte. Give my best regards to your mother when you see her.
She's been quite busy these last few nights. I suspect you may see her before me.
Have you noticed anything suspicious?
Good evening, sir. Please forgive me for disturbing you. I'm a doctor.
I never judge a man by his title, but by his attitude. And you are not disturbing me at all. I am Calhoun Russell, and I welcome you.
Well, I must admit it's good to receive a warm welcome for once. I'm Jonathan Reed.
Welcome, Dr. Reed. Welcome to my humble shop.
How is the situation in this part of town?
Life is good and peaceful. We're lucky to live in such an era of progress and wonders.
Are you not concerned about the epidemic?
Oh, I'm sure the authorities would take the appropriate measure if the danger were that high.
You cannot expect the newspapers to expose the truth while the war is still raging. I can assure you that the situation here is desperate.
Well, that's news then. But I can't believe that things are that bad. Are you sure you're not exaggerating a bit? For the thrill of it?
Is it not a little too late to be trading?
On the contrary, it is the perfect hour. Believe me, my friend, it is always at night that you meet the most fascinating characters.
But what about the epidemic? The bombs and raids? And all the random violence?
Please, sir, this is London, England. We will prevail. And if a bomb must fall on my shop, then I'll be there to hear it falling.
So you prefer to work at night?
Oh, I also enjoy a sunny day like everybody else. But the night always has a certain je ne sais quoi of its own.
What can you tell me about this place?
I recently found the best steak and kidney pie in the city. I'd be glad to share the address if you want.
Finding a good restaurant? Is that really all that interests you?
Oh, I have many passions, but nothing brings me ecstasy like subtle and exquisite flavors from my teeth to my belly.
I must confess, I have quite specific tastes when it comes to nutrition.
Really? Well, I'm always happy to try new exotic meals. If you ever find an intriguing table, please share the address.
Do you have any family nearby?
Not since my parents died. I'm London's lone gourmet.
Really? But you seem to be such a pleasant and sociable fellow.
I'm afraid the real hedonist has to be sometimes. I discovered ecstasy as a solitary pleasure, but it does not mean it can't ever be shared.
London's lone gourmet. What a strange title.
I used that name in my early years when I was a food critic, and I kept it.
I'm investigating the source of the epidemic in this district. Have you noticed anything unusual?
Not really. Wait, now that you mention it, I don't see the McPhersons in my favorite restaurants. They love delicate meals too, you understand.
Thank you. It may be nothing, but I'll investigate anyway. Where do they live?
They have a house in the southern part of the district, somewhere north of the railway bridge. There is a courtyard, if I remember rightly.
I may have a look at your goods, Mr. Russell. Good evening, old chap. Are you all right?
I won't lie to you, Johnny. I'm not a well man.
Do you need medical assistance, Clarence?
It's a little late for visiting hours, don't you think?
What can I say? I haven't lost my old habits.
I hope we're talking about the same habits, old friend.
You need some rest.
Lisa, whether you need to buy something or not, I'm happy to help.
Good evening, Avery.
Mr. Jonathan? I can't believe my own eyes. Oh, it's a miracle. We all thought you were... Oh, sir, your poor sister. What a tragedy.
I know, Avery. I know about my sister's murder.
Miss Reed expected you to return to assist with the funeral, right up until the last minute. Where have you been, Mr. Jonathan? We needed you here.
How is my mother?
Not well, I'm afraid, sir. Miss Reed is very fragile since the police brought her back home.
The police? What happened?
Miss Reed was found walking in the streets. She kept saying she had spoken with her son and daughter. She's resting now.
Has she received appropriate medical care?
I'm taking care of Miss Reed myself. Hospitals are so overwhelmed by the epidemic that they can only accept patients infected by influenza.
Perhaps we could arrange a short trip. Somewhere sunny, like France. She has always been very fond of France. I think leaving London could do her good.
I'm afraid Miss Reed is too frail for the moment. Recently, she started going out at night without remembering it. I have to watch her carefully.
What is the situation in this part of town?
For a time, the West End seemed spared by the epidemic. But the situation is getting much worse.
Have you no relatives anywhere? I'll understand if you want to take a few days to see family.
Your father managed to guarantee my earnings as long as I take care of this house, sir. My sisters are dead, and I've never met my nephews. I'll stay, sir.
I'm sorry I could not be here for Mary's funeral.
Your mother was strong, sir, but your support would have been appreciated. Apart from the priest and I, no one else attended your sister's funeral.
To be present at the funeral with you both was my dearest wish, Avery. But I am sorry, I simply could not attend.
I would not dare to question your absence, Mr. Jonathan. All I can say is that we missed you a great deal during these difficult days.
Tell me the truth, Avery. Do you feel forced to stay here? Would you leave this house without the arrangement made by my father?
No, sir. I have nowhere else to go. And I promised your father I'd take care of his family as long as I live.
This house is dead, Avery. There is a curse on this family. You really should consider leaving.
If only you could have been here sooner or more often. Maybe this house would not be that empty. But you're here now, sir. So my task is not over.
You have served this family extremely well, Avery. Your support during these terrible times is much appreciated.
Then I will stay. All I ask is that you take care of my own funeral if I die before the end of the epidemic. No mass grave, please, sir.
Do you really think I don't take enough care of my mother, Avery?
Yes, I do, Mr. Jonathan.
You clearly have something more to say. Speak your mind, Avery.
I know you work hard to help the sick, but what will you do once the epidemic is over?
My home is here, and I have nowhere else to go. But this house will need some improvements if I move here. Some radical changes.
That's good news. Whatever changes you have in mind, I'm sure we will find an arrangement that suits your mother also.
I'm currently investigating sources of the epidemic in this part of town. Do you know anything useful?
Not really, except all the Macpherson's servants resigned a few days ago. They feared becoming infected, they said.
The Macphersons? Where do they live?
I think it's a rich house near the railway bridge in the southern part of the district.
Goodbye, Avery. Please watch over my mother until I return.
Of course, Mr. Jonathan, but please return as soon as possible.
Jonathan, my dear, bring me my glasses. I feel like reading.